Have you ever found yourself in a situation where no matter what you do, you're wrong? A spot where you just feel trapped, confused, and completely drained? Well, today we are taking apart that invisible prison. We're talking about double-bind manipulation. We believe that our actions define our integrity, yet a manipulator can set up a scenario where any choice we make, including inaction, is instantly used as proof of our unsuitability or flaw. This is the dark psychological paradox of double-bind manipulation, a calculated no-win situation. You see, it's a game where the rules are specifically designed to make sure you can never ever win, and just trying to play is what guarantees you're going to lose.
All right, so how are we going to tackle this? We've laid out a clear roadmap. First, we're going to dig into the paradox itself. Then, we'll dissect the anatomy of the trap, piece by piece. From there, we'll look at the three-stage mechanism that actually makes it tick, and the psychology behind it all. And, most importantly, we're going to get to the good stuff. How to refuse to play the game, and how to win.
So let's start with that feeling, that core experience, the no-win paradox. Look, this isn't just about making a tough choice. This is about being forced into a situation where every single path you could possibly take leads to a bad outcome, a failure that was decided before you even started. It's that feeling of being completely cornered, not by random chance, but by a psychological maze someone else built just for you.
If you want to escape a trap, you first have to understand how it's built, right? So let's get into the anatomy of this psychological snare. Once you see the architecture, once you see the blueprint, you can start to take away its power. Seeing how it's made is really the first step to getting free.
So, at its heart, what is double-bind manipulation? Let's be really clear here. This is a sophisticated, high-level form of psychological abuse. This is not some simple misunderstanding. It's a calculated tactic where the victim is handed two conflicting demands, two orders that completely cancel each other out, making any kind of healthy, logical response impossible right from the get-go. So you have to ask yourself, why? Why would someone build such a complicated trap? Well, it's not about solving a problem. It's about power. The manipulator is looking for ego validation. They need to create a world, a narrative where they are always right, always justified. And by setting you up to fail, they get to reinforce their own story that they're the superior one. The actual structure of this trap is deceptively simple, but it is brutally effective. It's got two parts. First, you get the two conflicting demands. But the real key, the thing that makes it inescapable, is the secret, unspoken rule, the meta command. This is an invisible wall that stops you from pointing out the obvious contradiction. You're not allowed to say, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. That hidden rule is what locks you in the game. Okay, so we've seen the blueprint. Now let's look at how the trap is actually sprung. We're moving into the three-stage mechanism. This is the step-by-step process the manipulator uses to put the whole thing in motion and get what they want. This whole cycle plays out in three pretty distinct stages. It always starts with what we call contradiction enforcement. That's the setup. This then causes a state of cognitive freeze in the target, and it all ends with the manipulator's real goal, invalidation. Let's break each one down. Okay, stage one, contradiction enforcement. This example here is a classic. Imagine someone says to you, I need you to be completely honest with me about your feelings. That sounds good, right? Healthy, even. But then they immediately follow it with, but if your honesty hurts my feelings, then you're just a cruel person. See what's happening? You're being ordered to be honest, but you're also being told you'll be punished if that honesty has a negative effect. It just creates this intense mental static, this cognitive dissonance, because you can't win. So just pause for a second and really think about it. What's the right choice here? If you're honest, you get labeled as cruel. If you're dishonest to protect their feelings, well, then you're a liar. There's no right answer. Every door is the wrong door. And that feeling of paralysis leads directly to stage two, cognitive freeze. Your brain, which is wired to find logical solutions, basically just short circuits. You get so mentally tired trying to solve this puzzle that has no solution, and that exhaustion, that's the whole point. It wears you down until you're forced to just pick one of the losing options, any option, just to make it stop. You're basically cornered into making a mistake. And that forced mistake, that brings us to the final and most devastating stage, invalidation. No matter which losing path you picked, the manipulator pounces. If you were honest, they say, see, I knew you were a cruel person. If you lied to protect them, it's, see, I knew you couldn't be trusted. Your choice, the one they forced you to make, becomes the proof they use to attack your character, your sanity, your intentions, leaving you just feeling defeated and totally confused. This whole thing is just incredibly effective. But why? Why does this trap work so well on a psychological level? Let's dig into the psychology of control that really makes this whole dynamic possible. What we have here is a tragic mismatch in what's driving each person. On one side, you've got the manipulator who has this deep, desperate need to be right, to be justified, to be in control. But on the other side, you have the target, who usually just has a natural, healthy desire for things to make sense. They want logic, they want sanity, they want closure, and the manipulator takes that very healthy drive and turns it into the engine that powers the trap against them. And over time, the long-term effect of this is really profound. When you constantly try and fail to solve these paradoxes, it can lead to a state we call learned helplessness. The target just gets so mentally and emotionally exhausted from running in this maze that they start to feel totally powerless, like there's no way out. They might even start to believe the manipulator's twisted reality, that they really are the flawed, crazy, or cruel person they're being told they are. Okay, we have gone deep into the problem. We've analyzed the trap. Now it's time to shift gears from understanding to empowerment. How do you actually dismantle this thing? It all starts with making one single, powerful decision. You have to refuse to play the game. Your defense is a conscious, three-step plan to take your power back. First, you have to name the bind. Second, you have to refuse the premise. And third, you need to externalize the logic. These aren't just abstract ideas. These are the actual keys you can use to get free. Let's look at each one. Now, let's focus on step 2, because this one is the absolute game changer, refusing the premise. This means you don't pick option A or option B. Instead, you step completely outside the game and you call out its rules. A really powerful way to do this is to just state, calmly and clearly, your demands conflict. I refuse to accept the premise of this choice. You're not arguing, you're not defending yourself, you're simply stating a fact and withdrawing from their rigged game. And finally, and this is so important, you have to externalize the logic. This whole manipulation is a form of gaslighting. It's designed to make you question your own mind. So you have to find a trusted, neutral person, a friend, a therapist, anyone outside the situation, and just explain what's happening. When they confirm that yes, this situation is completely illogical, it reaffirms your own perception of reality. It breaks the spell. It's the reality check that lets you find solid ground again. This brings us to our final section, and really, the core message of this whole explainer. After understanding all the mechanics and the defenses, what is the only way to truly win this game? So let's wrap this all up. At their very heart, double binds create impossible situations. They are closed loops where every single choice you're given has been designed from the start to serve as proof that the manipulator's negative story about you is true. We've seen exactly how that pattern works, right? It starts with contradiction enforcement, setting up that impossible choice. That leads directly to cognitive freeze, that mental paralysis that forces you to make a losing move. And that forced move is then instantly used as the weapon for invalidation, which completes the whole vicious cycle. But here's the thing. This is not an unbreakable code. Awareness is what shatters the whole loop. The second you can see the pattern for what it is, the moment you can name the bind, even just to yourself, you've already started to break free. And by taking that next courageous step and actually refusing the premise out loud, you are actively taking apart the trap and reclaiming your power. And that leads us to the final, most crucial truth. The purpose of this trap was never for you to choose the right answer. The purpose was to make you lose. So trying to find the right move inside the game is pointless. The only way to win is to recognize the game for what it is and walk away. The only winning move is not to play.